Thank you. I will oppose Senate Bill 615 to establish an interagency program in North Africa and West Africa. The bill states rather blandly and without proof that it is in our national security interest to be involved in Africa to the extent that we will be appropriating resources, we will be checking violent extremism, we will even be monitoring media. We have trouble even monitoring violent extremism in media in our own country, much less in Africa. It also says we're going to enhance border security. It seems like we've got our own sort of border problems we might want to pay attention to before we decide that we're going to take care of the border problems in Africa. I think it's an open-ended question, though, whether or not this involvement, this degree of involvement in Africa is in our national security interests. I think this is an unproven assertion. I think the burden should be on those who want to get more involved in Africa to prove, one, that it works, our involvement in the past, and two, that the violent extremists there are a threat to our U.S. national security. Others might argue that our involvement in Africa actually becomes a tripwire to expanding war and to expanding involvement in these areas. The concern I have about this bill is that we presume that we have solutions to a complex, interrelated series of regional conflicts and long-held rivalries, some of which go back decades and longer. With this bill, we are formally committing to solve these complicated problems in North and West Africa, but we haven't really demonstrated that we know the answers or understand the nature of what is happening there. Well, there are Boko Haram and ISIS sympathizers and splinter fighter groups who pose regional threats. You also have disputes over land and water. You have farmers and livestock herders clashing. 2 years ago, we lost 4 soldiers in Niger who were chasing a goat herder. Was that a vital interest in Niger that sent these brave young men to their deaths? Should anybody ask these questions? Why we were chasing this goat herder? Was this goat herder a threat to our national security? You have transitional governments that come and go. You have pockets of ungoverned territory surrounded by more stable territory. You have armed counterterrorism groups acting in self-defense. Can we presume to know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are in these religious disputes and territorial disputes? The French have been there, the Europeans have been there, now we're there. The complicated warfare, the complicated clan warfare of Somalia is often the norm in Africa. In Somalia, you have al-Shabaab, but you also have factions like Puntland, Jubaland, the Galmudug, the Popular Resistance Movement, and the Transitional Federal Government. They control different parts of the country, assert different levels of autonomy, but also come from overlapping tribes, clans, and subclans such as Hawiye, Rahanwe, Habar Gadir. Some of the factions consist of only one tribe, and other factions are made up of many tribes and clans. Can we really presume to know who is best to rule Somalia and that we have the answers for Somalia? You would think after the disaster that was Mogadishu, the United States would have learned its lesson there too, but no, we're still there with U.S. soldiers 20 years ago. 20 years later, this bill doesn't specifically apply to Somalia, but it's the same sort of story throughout Africa. Messy wars, messy clan warfare, messy tribes, where I don't know that we can really presume to know what's best. I think we're kidding ourselves if the United States presumes to know which faction supports the ideals of a Western republic. To reduce these complicated histories in the region to a matter of eliminating terrorism oversimplifies the nature of the problems there. But it also obscures the fact that many of these groups pose no immediate threat to Americans here at home. We have a significant military presence in Africa. A recent report says we have 6,000 troops in Africa. No one's given an authorization for use of force. And I do appreciate that an amendment I offered will be included in this to make clear that this bill does not authorize the use of force. However, there's a whole lot of references to their military, our military, and support, and you can see how it quickly morphs into any administration that wants to use military force will point to this as support for whatever they choose to do. I think we need to go further in trying to not eliminate or dumb this down to 2 solutions, that we have to fight everywhere or otherwise terrorists will overrun us. I think it's a false choice. It's a justification for perpetual war. It is precisely that mindset that keeps us bogged down in Afghanistan. I mean, this talks about, making sure girls get an education and things like this. Admirable qualities, but are we really going to send our soldiers into every country in the world to make sure that girls get an education? Is it feasible? Is it possible? Is it something we should be asking our soldiers to do? I think it's time that we understand that the idea that we can eradicate an ideology or pacify a populace full of discontent is foolhardy and naive at best. Thank you.